welcome. Tonight I'm going to whisper to you about the kings and queens of England and Scotland. This is part of my Viewer's Choice series. One of my viewers named Zach Green, thank you Zach, requested a video about monarchies around the world, and I thought that's a fantastic idea because that's one of my hyperfixations. So I started plotting out a video about all the different royal families around the world, and I realized that if left unchecked and I ramble, the video's gonna be like 3 hours long, which I know you'd all enjoy, but that would be a nightmare. So I just decided to narrow it down to my favorite royal family, the Mountbatten Windsors and all of their descendants. Like, don't get me wrong, I could talk forever about like how Spain, their heir is Princess Leonor. She's going to be the first queen of Spain since Isabella, like Ferdinand and Isabella. At Monaco, the prince there, it's a principality. The prince had twins, a boy and a girl, but the girl was born first. So she's going to be the future princess of Monaco, even though there's a boy. Like, that's great. Or how allegedly the heir to the throne of Thailand, the future Rama the 11th, allegedly has Down syndrome. Like, it's like so apparent, it's so obvious, but they haven't said anything. But the heir to the throne of Thailand, that stretches back to what, the 1700s, clearly has Down syndrome, which isn't a bad. Let him be king. That rocks. Let there be a disabled king, please. But like, just say it, like, just come at me clearly. Anyway, I could go on and on. Listen, I have work to do. I'm about to go on vacation. I'm batch filming like crazy. I just don't have the time, so I am just going to confine my ramblings to William the Conqueror and his descendants, because it's quite a trip. So this is my book. I bought an edition of this when I first visited England. Things have happened since then, so this is the new version, the new edition, all updated with everybody. So let's get into it. So there were kings beforehand, right? There were the Saxons, there's Alfred the Great, but William the Conqueror went conquering. He's now the king from Normandy, so this is the Norman line. His heir is William II. Him and his brother go out hunting one day, and Henry's like, oh man, there was a hunting accident, and he's like super dead, so I'm king now, right? Like, I'm now the king, so now I'm king. Okay. Him and his wife have 2 kids, William and Matilda. William dies tragically young, so his heir is Matilda. But people are like, Matilda can't be queen. Stephen's the next king. There's a whole civil war that nearly breaks out between people who support Stephen and people who support Matilda. They come to a consensus that Stephen can be king, but he has to name Matilda's son as his heir. I think that's a good consensus. So Henry II is the next king. He comes from the line of Anjou in France. They all speak French anyway because they're from Normandy. But it triggers a new dynasty, the Plantagenet dynasty. Henry II is married to Eleanor of Aquitaine. They have a lot of kids, but the 3 most important are Richard, Geoffrey, and John. Richard becomes Richard the Lionheart. He goes off on crusade, dies out there. He's barely in England during his reign. Geoffrey, there's a great movie called The Lion in Winter. If you want to see, it's just like a family drama about this family. Geoffrey is his own thing. He's obviously like, that's the golden child, that's the smart one, that's the dumb one. John becomes king next. John is the dumb one. John was such a horrible king that, you see, it's not John the First. There are no family members named John after him because nobody wants to be John II because that's how bad John's reign was. But the Magna Carta comes out of it, so there's that. His son's Henry III. His son's Edward I, Edward II, Edward III. Not very nice people, especially if you're Scottish, right? Gosh, next is, next I'll go on to the Yorks, right? Is that what happens next? Lancaster, not York. Lancaster. Richard II. On to Henry IV. Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay, this starts at Edward. Richard II. Henry IV. He has Henry V. Henry VI. It gets real. It gets real, okay? A lot of people are in this family now. It's been many generations. And a lot of people have claims to the throne. These two go back and forth, trying to depose each other until this guy gets whacked by this guy, basically, in the Tower of London. So now we have Edward. Edward passes away. His son, he has two boys. He's very young. Gosh, how old was he? Like 9? Something like that. His kind uncle Richard III helps him into the tower to keep him safe, and both these kids are never seen again. Allegedly. I read this history magazine article ages ago that proves that they escaped, but the crown goes to Richard III. Richard III is another very notorious king, but that's mostly due to Shakespeare's play about him. After he dies in battle, the next in line is Henry VII, who's, technically related. So now we have the house of Tudor. The War of the Roses is over. No more Lancasters and Yorks battling it out. It's settled now. From what I've read about him, Henry VII was kind of a cool dude. No, I'm sorry, I'm thinking Arthur. Arthur was a cool dude, not him. Arthur was a cool dude, but he died young. He was supposed to be the next king. So it goes to his younger brother, Henry, becomes Henry VIII. And I think we all know the tea about Henry VIII. Dude had 6 wives. Ended Catholicism in England and Wales. And in Ireland. I tried Ireland. Nice try. But yeah, 6 wives, 3 kids. Henry VIII dies from obesity complications because this dude was massive. He had like weeping legs, like it was a whole. He was morbidly obese. His young son Edward was like 11, around there, when he became king, and he didn't last very long, as you can see. He died quite young. It goes to his older sister Mary, who's married to the King of Spain. Otherwise known as Bloody Mary, she tries to bring Catholicism back. There was an attempt. But when she dies with no heirs, her sister Elizabeth becomes queen, and she brings back the Church of England that her father created. And starts the Elizabethan era, one of the great rulers of, like, the world, right? Everyone knows Elizabeth I. But she very famously doesn't get married and have any kids. So, the tea is that her aunt married the King of Scotland. So, her technical cousin becomes Mary, Queen of Scots, who's a thorn in Elizabeth's side because Elizabeth is convinced that Mary, Queen of Scots, is trying to overthrow her to take over the kingdom, which she probably was. Like, she murdered her second husband, like, allegedly. Don't let the royal family come. Allegedly, she was behind Lord Darnley's untimely death, but she had a kid with Lord Darnley named James. So Elizabeth named James the future King of England. He was King of Scotland when So now Scotland and England are one kingdom. Alright, starting the Stuart line. My kitten woke up, can you hear her? I think she found a moth out there. She was playing with a moth earlier. It's probably still around. James the First has three important kids: Henry, Elizabeth, and Charles. Henry is a pretty cool dude. James dotes. First of all, James. Okay, we're not going to get into the tea with King James. Yes, we are. Okay. King James was not a straight man. He had a lot of favorites, and he kept appointing them to positions of power, and they were not qualified, and they kept getting fired, and he would be pissed off about it because that's his boyfriend, But the King James Bible was created to create a more modern translation of the Bible for the first part, for James to put a stamp on it to make England happy with having a Scottish king. But they threw in that line about man shall not lie with another man. They changed it from a boy to a man, so that it would seem that James wasn't into butt stuff, but he super was. And that's why we have all this debate today about is homosexuality against the Bible, because this dude could not stop. Anyway, that's the tea on James the First. He loved Henry. He was a golden child. He drowned. Couldn't become king. So that passes to Charles. Charles was not prepared to be king. He was absolutely awful. He decided he had divine right and didn't need a government. They rebelled. They executed him. A whole civil war started. Oliver Cromwell and all of that. It was a hot mess. The 30 Years' Wars going on. Elizabeth's dealing with that. She marries the elector in Germany who picks the Holy Roman Emperors. It's a whole to-do in this family. It's nuts. Another just reign of this family here. James the First and his offspring that just went off the rails. Charles, though, has a couple kids. Charles II comes back to England after being exiled after his dad is murdered, executed, I should say. And by then, they're like, you know what? England's like, hey, this Cromwell guy's not really working out. I think we need a king. And bring in Charles II. He brings back a bit of sanity, right? His heir becomes his brother, James. James has two daughters, Mary and Anne. There's a whole bunch, but it's come to the consensus that Mary and William are joint rulers. They co-rule together, which is the only time that's ever happened in the UK. But Anne winds up becoming queen after nothing happens here. However, nothing happens here either. There's a great movie about Queen Anne called The Favourite. You can tell I've watched every movie about the royal family. The Favourite's a great movie, which is also about favorites, which is a whole thing in this dynasty. But nothing happens there. So the next descendant is Elizabeth, who moved to Germany, or what is now Germany. Her grandson is George the First. So she's in Hanover, which is in Germany now. So that starts the Hanoverian line. The House of Hanover. So George has his son, George II. He rules for ages, man. This family has just a long lifespan. It passes to his grandson, George III. He has a long reign. I feel like every American knows George III from the Revolutionary War. He loses the colonies here in the U.S. Alright, another line of siblings here. George IV has one child, Charlotte, who I believe died in childbirth, and it broke this dude's heart. He kind of never recovered. Once he passed, it went to his brother, William. William's married to Adelaide. They cannot have kids. I'm pretty sure because he had a lot of illegitimate kids, around, I want to say 5, but no legitimate passed to his brother Edward, but his brother Edward died quite young, tragically. So it passes to Edward's only issue, Victoria. She becomes queen at age 18, and she rules for so long. She marries her first cousin, Albert, which I wish they showed on here. He's in Germany, Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, right? She marries her first cousin, and they get busy. Apparently, I mean, we all know, if you know what a Prince Albert is, I'm not gonna say it here, but he didn't have a prince. Okay, listen. They got up to stuff in the bedroom because they had, 9 kids? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah. Victoria, Edward, Alice, Alfred, Helena, Louise, Arthur, Leopold, and Beatrice. She loved her husband. She loved her kids. Albert died young. She never recovered. Victoria would go on to marry the Germans and start the line of Kaisers that led World War I. Edward is named the heir apparent. That will pass on to George V. But keep in mind his daughter Victoria there. She's going to be important, okay? All these people go on to, gosh, I don't think Beatrice got married, but she did. I think she married after her mom died because she was the closest to Victoria. I don't know. I don't remember. Something like that. Anyway, going on to George V. Now, World War I happens, so they decide to change their name from a German name to the House of Windsor, because Windsor is the main castle that they reign from, even though by now they all live in Buckingham Palace, but Windsor sounds better, in my opinion, at least. That they apparently agreed so too. So, George V. They have a bunch of kids, but the important ones are Edward and George, as you can see here. Edward is the heir. He becomes king in 1936. Edward has a problem because he's in love with Wallis Simpson, who's an American divorcee, and he cannot marry her because she is not British and she's already been married, which, getting divorced back then was like social suicide, right? He's also best friends with the Chancellor of Germany, who looks like is not following the rules and invading Poland and stuff. So there's a problem. He abdicates after 11 months, marries Wallis Simpson. They go off to the Caribbean. His younger brother George becomes king. He has not anticipated this. He's always just thought he's going to be the spare, right? There's the heir and the spare. He becomes king. He has 2 daughters, Elizabeth and Margaret. So Elizabeth becomes the heir. After he passes, Elizabeth becomes queen. Remember Victoria that I mentioned marries Louis of Battenberg. They have Alice and Louis Mountbatten, who is very important in Indian history and such. Alice has Philip Mountbatten, and that's who Elizabeth marries. That's gross. That's nasty. In this modern age to marry, technically. Anyway, they get married. They have 4 kids: Charles, Anne, Andrew, and Edward. Edward's the one normal one. He's just a guy. But he's married to Sophie Rhys-Jones. They have Louise and James. They're the most normal people in all of them. Andrew marries Fergie, they call her in the 90s. Sarah Ferguson. They have Beatrice and Eugenie. Did you know that Andrew doesn't sweat because of trauma from the Falklands War? Long story short, he's been disowned from the family, even though he was Elizabeth II's favorite son. She spoiled this boy. And a boy. He is a boy. He is not a man. Ew. Anyway. Beatrice is married to Eduardo Mapelli Mozzi. They have Sienna. Eugenie married Jack Brooksbank. They have August. Anne is fine. She's served in the military. She's an Olympic athlete in equestrian. Yeah. She married Mark Phillips. They had Peter and Sarah. They divorced. Because now divorce is fine. Sorry, Edward. He was a Nazi anyway, whatever. Now divorce is fine. Because you know who else gets divorced? Charles gets married to Diana Spencer. They have William and Harry, legally Henry, but nobody calls him Henry. His name's Harry. They divorce. She dies very tragically. I'm pretty sure it was on purpose. I don't think it was an accident. He eventually marries his longtime mistress, Camilla, who's the current queen, which I have a lot of thoughts and opinions. Okay, as I was saying, my cat just sneezed, and it was really cute, but I think that was kind of loud. But I was talking about Camilla, and it's probably a good thing my cat sneezed, because if you can't say something nice, you shouldn't say anything at all, right? Anyway, Elizabeth II reigns until 2022. I think, in my opinion, Charles should have passed the crown to William, because this dude is ancient. Literally any day this dude could just drop, you know. But Charles has been waiting for that moment for so long that there's no way he would have actually let it skip to William. There's no way he wanted the crown since he was little. And Camilla wanted to be queen. Man, at that coronation, she had the biggest eat shit grin on her face. Anyway, they were over the moon to be crowned king and queen. They were like, finally, it's happened. My mom died. I mean, obviously he was sad his mom died, right? But there was like a silver lining to it. I think he should have passed it to William, but that's just me. William is married to Kate Middleton. They have 3 kids, George, Charlotte, and Louis. Louis is named after Louis Mountbatten, which is like a little problematic. But anyway, Harry is a year older than me, and I developed a crush on Harry when I was like 5 years old. I thought he was absolutely gorgeous and I wanted to marry him. When I was like 5, I thought, this is the love of my life. I thought he was so cute. And like, even looking back at pictures of him, I'm like, damn. He's got his father's balding. He's still very handsome. I still have a crush on him. But I'm like, you know what, there's no way he's gonna fall for some girl from California. Like, it's just not gonna happen. There's no way he's gonna wind up marrying some American from California. Spoiler alert. He marries a girl from California. Meghan Markle. Which, listen, I will not have any Meghan Markle slander in the comments here. Absolutely not. Your comment's gonna get deleted so fast. I will defend her to the death. You guys, I love Meghan Markle. This is the love of my life. I've hated every girlfriend he's had except Meghan. I knew Meghan was the one when they started dating. I knew that finally he's dating a girl with a head on her shoulders at last. I love Meghan Markle. Do not say anything about Meghan Markle. She is... I love her too. Okay, not as much as I love him, because if they separate, I'm going for it. But I love Meghan Markle. She's done nothing wrong. Shut up. They have 2 kids, Archie and Lilibet. They are kept very private, as opposed to these kids, but George is like the future king, so he's everywhere. But Meghan is very smartly keeping her children out of the spotlight because, yeah, she went through it just as Diana went through it, just as Fergie went through it. Women are not treated very well in this day and age in the royal family. I hope Charlotte, when she starts becoming a teenager, does not also go through it. I really hope so, because that girl looks so sweet. She's my favorite out of the 3. Anyway, that is the royal family. Let's see. There's Elizabeth. There's Charles. listen, when I was little, I've probably told this story before, but I found Prince Harry. I fell in love, but I also loved Diana. I thought she was my role model. I didn't think I knew she was my role model. I adored her. I thought someday I'm gonna meet her when I marry her son, you know. And I couldn't wait to meet her, and she passed away when I was 12, 13. And I cried and cried and cried and cried. I used to cut out pictures of her in magazines, and I had a collage that I kept in my closet that I would look at like every day. And when she passed, I threw it away because I was so devastated. Yeah. I hate this man. So there's William and Kate. Listen, I also love Kate. They might have some issues. He's obviously cheated on her. Let's be real. But this was such a beautiful wedding. I'm so obsessed with her dress. It was just so perfect on her. It looks so good. It's just a silhouette that not a lot of women can pull off, and she looked so gorgeous and graceful. It was a beautiful wedding. So here's the kids. Could you find like a worse picture of these babies, right? Look at George, like Louis is just like ew, and Charlotte, it's like her hands in front of her face, so it's not even a good picture of either of them. And then there's my boo right there, back when he had a full head of hair. He's so hot. If you're like, wait, I thought you were gay. I'm bisexual. There's like 5 men in the world that I would leave everything for, and he's one of them. There's Meghan Markle, and that's baby Archie. That's the day he was born, because they were still involved in the royal family. They've since been booted, and it's very complicated, and we're not going to get into it tonight. So that's the royal family in England. So, yeah, imagine that. Imagine this rant that I just did, but for like 10 other royal families. We'd be here all day, right? This would be a 10-hour video. So we're not going to get into that. Maybe another day. Next viewer's choice, one of you has to be like, hey, can you talk about the Swedish royal family? Can you talk about what happened to Nepal's royal family? They all were massacred like 20 years ago, the whole royal family. Now they don't even have a royal family in Nepal. It's all... Anyway, the Japanese imperial family, you know, we almost got an empress. We almost got an empress of Japan for the first time in history. The Japanese imperial family goes back thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years with no... Well, there were a couple of women who ruled, but they were like regents. And I think there was one that, or maybe two, that had like a little coup situation. But we almost had like a legitimate empress, and then she had a baby brother, and there goes that. So unfortunate, but it's not like they have power anyway. They don't make any decisions in government. They're just figureheads. But anyway, yeah, you see, we can't be. I just can't, you guys. I can't do every family. I'm sorry, Zach. I'm sorry, everybody watching this. It's just too much. This was already too much. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end, comment down below your favorite king or queen of England and or Scotland. Is it Robert the Bruce? But yeah, let me know. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this relaxing and educational.